It seems rough out there. I don't know if you're feeling it.
Yeah, so I have basically been getting out of the film industry for the last 2 years. Like, I think my last film job was 2022. Um, and but with all that said, like if I decided to stay in, like I don't know how easy or hard it would be. I mean, I did start in 2010, so I have the reputation to lean on versus someone that's brand new getting in. But I don't have my finger on the pulse like I did, I would say 2 years ago, but also just outside looking in, like I've heard more struggles than I've heard, oh, we're so busy like it was, before the pandemic. I would say the pandemic started the film industry being a bit more limited in opportunities. And then I would say it came back with a force. But then when the writers' strike and SAG was striking too, then it really scaled back. And at least from my perspective, we haven't seen it return to what it was in Atlanta before the pandemic, sustainably anyway.
Yeah, it seems to be shifting for sure. And I think there are many forces that are creating this shift. You know what I mean? Like, I think some of it is economical, some of them is technological that influences the economy. So you can say that the new technologies are influencing the economy and where studios are going to be, pouring money into or where they're going to be cutting back. So I definitely see that. I see like people kind of, it's one of those things, right? Like you always thought, man, if technology gets to a point, it's going to become easier. And I think in some ways it has, right? Because I think like for someone like you, who is a writer director, right? In a way, there's got to be a part of you that's excited because it's like, now I can make that thing a little bit easier because technology is getting to a point, right? On the same token, some of the middle class jobs go away. So it cuts both ways. It really does cut both ways, right? What is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great point, especially from like more an independent perspective, because we are constantly working within limited resources.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, I mean, that is exciting to be like, ooh, I can achieve more. Like now, I mean, I would say it has less to do with AI, but and more like the kind of gig economy. It's like now I could go onto Fiverr or Upwork and get a pretty decent poster, what's up by someone that's more affordable outside of the US. So it's like, I think both as people and participants in the economy, it's like, I do feel for me like a push and pull, even as far as like outside of film, like even with clothes, like the fast fashion, like I like to be expressive with my wardrobe. And it's like, I do feel this push pull of like, I don't like people being exploited. And same with like kind of the middle class jobs, so to speak, within the film industry, potentially eventually becoming obsolete. Like that hurts. But at the same time, at least in the film regard, I do think change is coming. And I think it's always wise to like be on the lookout for change as it's happening, because change is inevitable. So I don't want to like shoulder like change that is coming, because that's not totally on me. Like that's society wise and technological advances that are happening. But I would say as a whole for humanity, I do think we have to be more conscious of people's experiences. Like, so to go back to the fast fashion with clothing, like I don't think anyone should be having such severe work conditions as they're experiencing, just so that like us as consumers can make a quick buck. Because even to like be more affordable, I would still rather pay, like have the baseline of pay be more than have someone go through that. But at the same time, when presented with a choice, like, yeah, morally I'm against it, but like when money is tight, like I do what I gotta do just like anyone else, is my perspective. some people may have a much higher moral obligation than me in that regard, and that is totally fair.
Listen, when you see that sale on H&M, it's hard to say no.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's a really good point, because it does. Again, that also cuts both ways. It cuts both ways on the production side, as far as any goods or services, which movies are goods, in a very real way. But I think a lot of the times, because you would think, right? One of the biggest things I noticed when I went to Hollywood is, because I lived there for about 9, almost 10 years, right? And I'm thinking I'm going to go there and people are going to be, wow, this is like super progressive as far as we're looking at the future, new technologies and all this stuff. And in reality, what I found is, not politically, but as far as the business itself, Hollywood's extremely conservative as far as, in some regards, not being open to new technology. So, and I would say this with a caveat, where I think that like the stuff that you worked on, like the Marvel stuff, and then Stranger Things and all that, like I think those guys are in the cutting edge, right? Like if you're like the top 10%, you're in the cutting edge, but everybody else is trying to hold the status quo as much as they can, as far as tech and is concerned, because they're afraid to lose their jobs, right? Like the unions, and I mean, for good reason. I'm not saying it's for bad reason, right? Like obviously writers are concerned about how derivatives of their work could be utilized in the future. Same thing with actors. That was a big part of the strike, because they don't want to like use your likeness 10 years from now and not pay you anything for it.
Yeah.
But what is your take on that? Do you see, when you were working on those bigger productions, did you see were they open to new technologies, or they were a little bit, I don't know, let's use the old stuff? And
yeah, I mean, first I want to kind of begin with my opinion on it, because I'm not at studio executive tables by any stretch, but I hear things here and there.
You're not?
No, oh. I'm not.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. This was great.
But yeah, and I find it interesting. Like, I feel like actors are the ones that are kind of being hit first.
Which is not something that you would think, right? You would think that, like, they'll be the safest, but they're really not.
Yeah, it's interesting, because like I streaming, going from like theatrical releases and cable to streaming, like that's where the business really changed, and we're still figuring out what deals and financial and artistic protections should exist. And that's where, yeah, for me as an artist, and like seeing like what is and like could continue happening when it comes to actors, I think that people really have to advocate for themselves as these changes are happening. And so in that respect, I think the more united we can be, the better. And yeah, I think it just takes time to figure out like what is the new quote unquote normal, or at least I think baseline is a better word of like, okay, because even from an independent, so for me, my perspective as an independent director is, we're losing, when I am pitching a concept, we're losing statistics on, what shows and feature films are making money, because really it's just streaming and views, and that information is not public knowledge. So I'm like, well, how can I prove a proof of concept if I can't get access to the numbers? And yeah, and I feel like, I mean, it's not just actor. Anyone that's really above the line that gets like residuals, like any kind of form of payment that is due to repeat watches or sales or what have you. And not only that, but I think another, not totally new, but newer facet to the industry that's getting explored more are like these experiences and product lines that come as a result of these shows. Like, so working in the art department, some graphic designers, like when they create, a sign or something that gets to become known as like a more hero prop that people like recreate for Halloween costumes or whatnot. But that, certain Halloween manufacturers then manufacture, it's like, why isn't that graphic designer getting residuals for that
Right.
So from a crew perspective, I've always thought that way, especially with costume designers when it comes to like Halloween and cosplay. Now, given some people like make those themselves, and that is just like the creative process. But yeah, when it becomes manufactured by a company and they don't see a dime of that, I don't think that's right.
Imagine if the guy who designed the first lightsaber got a cut out of that for perpetuity. I mean, it's got to be
Right.
all set. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I had a friend of mine who wanted to get into acting, but he was a business guy, and he didn't understand, and this guy was against the strike and all that stuff. And I was talking to him about, well, it's not easy, being an actor. You can work for years without making any money. uh, Before a break or even after a break, right? Doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
if you have like a hit show or whatever that you're going to be working again. There's no guarantee. There are no guarantees. So the residuals are important for people, right?
Yeah.
But he looked at it from he was looking at it from the business side. He was like, well, they got paid the days that they worked. What else do they want, right? Because nobody else gets paid. Like if I work for a client, for example, right? If I film for a client, I'm not gonna get paid forever. I'm just gonna get paid for that job. Um, I understand how he would have that point of view, um, but I also see the necessity of needing residuals because
Mm-hmm.
I've been an actor for a while, and that's not what pays my bills at all. So,
Right.
I get that. I find that usually there is a disconnect, and I wonder if you feel if you what your experience is about this, but it seemed to be a disconnect because primarily you're talking about a very cutthroat business, right? And then people who are artists in the almost purest form. And it seems that sometimes there is a complete disconnect, right? Because like the producer wants this thing done this way because of the money and needs to be released and blah
Mm-hmm.
blah blah. And the artist is like, no, I'm gonna do this the way I envision it because it's my baby, it's my soul, it's my expression. This I want to do. Um, what was your experience? Have you experienced that?
So, yeah, I have this theory that since the industry is going through such intense changes, I think that's why we're seeing what I would call more safe bets. Like we're seeing, from the animation movie perspective, I won't name names studio wise, but it's like now we're seeing the live action of all those. And
Right.
all the like fourth and
I
fifth
wonder
and
what studio you're talking about.
yeah, very family friendly. And yeah, we're seeing like so many iterations and now TV series and spin-offs of series, and it's like the I think this is my theory. I feel like the studios, Hollywood producers, executives, etc., are very risk averse to original ideas. At the same time, as a consumer and as I talk to people, we are starved for like quality, something new, something original. So, I mean, I feel like I will name this studio. I feel like that's why A24 does so well.
Oh
Is that
yeah,
they're
yeah.
doing the quote quote riskier moves, but hey, it's paying off. So like that, yeah, I feel like a lot of the more traditional studios, the way I can best phrase it, are beating dead horses. And it's like, yes, there is a market for that, but I feel like there's quite a bit of us that aren't getting the quality content that we're used to.
Yeah, and there was so much good quality content, even not that long ago. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely saw a decline over time for sure. But yeah,
Or
the cool
even
thing about
it's just
no, go ahead.
not like front and center. Like I think the quality content is out there, but with the space being so much more competitive now, I think to like have the voice of your film or project be heard and seen is much harder.
Yeah. It's funny because it's in a way is easier to make it, right? Make the project, but the the cost of marketing it didn't go down, probably went up. Like
Yeah.
if you were gonna pay for advertisement, you could market a movie with YouTube and I thought about the business model too. Is like if you grew on YouTube enough, right? If you get to a point that you have millions of subscribers and you made your own movie, why can't you sell that like you sell any other product or like on YouTube, right? Like somebody can go
Mm-hmm.
to I'm sure there's some way to download the movie and get paid $20 or $10, whatever it is. Um, and that you could make good money like that. But getting to that level of subscribers is also not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that too. Um, you mentioned A24, and I really like their stuff, and I wonder, I never got into the position for anybody to offer me money to make a project, but it would almost seem like there is a magic number that they don't give a shit what you do, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a really good place to be, right? Because like these A24 movies that are excellent, right, are not high budget movies. And it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like they'll give the director like, here, this is the money, go do the thing. This is all the money you get, but go do it. We're not gonna bother you. And it seems like with these, like the Marvel, the DC, big movies, like you're making the movie in a committee, and everybody there's so many cooks in the
Mm-hmm.
kitchen that you
Yeah.
like the director. It's not the director's movie, it's the studio's movie.
Mm-hmm.
The director's just there to call cut and action, and that's it. Um, so yeah, I almost think that there's a certain number of like, no, I don't want the 300 million. Just give me 30 and let me do what I want. I think that's almost better. I would think
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah, and too, like, I feel like A24 too, like, they, yeah, it's not like, I mean, given, I don't know, I've never been, had the opportunity yet to be a director on an A24 production. However,
It would be
like,
nice.
right, like
It would
outside
be
looking
nice. Yeah.
in, yeah, I think I would have a bit more support from that studio to bring my creative ideas, vision, and yeah, not feel like it's a wrestling match between me and the studio. Um, I forget where I was going with all this, but yeah.
Well, I would say that they put out a lot of movies in a given year. In fact, I think they are probably one of the studios that put out the most amount of movies in a given year. And it almost seems that the approach that they have, and again, I'm not privy to any, information. This is just me outside looking in. It seems like they produce a lot of things, and then they will promote the things that get really good traction. But
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like they're kind of like giving opportunities and see who has the talent, and then they'll promote that. You know, um, you know who Sean Baker is, right? He just won an Oscar for is it Anora? Is that the name of the movie?
Oh, I'm
Just
not
won an
sure.
Oscar.
As I say,
Yeah,
I was a
I
little bit out of the Oscar loop this year. I need to catch up.
I never watched that. I mean, it's like if there's one thing I don't like about movie business is the fucking Oscars and shit like that. I have zero
Yeah.
interest in that other than seeing like it's like I'm very interested in seeing the highest form of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
I could care less about winning the thing. Like it's like for me, it's not that's not important. What's important is the actual making a good movie or watching a good movie.
Yeah. Yeah,
I am at
because
all at that.
yeah, I feel like to your point of like you may or may not get that external validation, and there's so many like factors that I feel like goes into who gets
Oh yeah.
nominated, let alone who wins the Oscar. That like I don't know. For me, yeah, outside looking in and just observing like all the changes in the industry, they've just kind of lost their I want to say appeal because again, I would definitely be very ecstatic if I was ever nominated or win an Oscar. At the same time, I guess I'm more I don't put as much trust into like, yes, that's the best movie. Like, I would say growing up, and two, there was just fewer movies and like anything that, yeah, resources have just become so much more abundant. Like, it's so much easier to shoot digitally versus on film. Like, I pretty much anyone can make, not anyone, but like if you have the knowledge and skill set, anyone can make a really solid feature. Whether it gets seen, I think is, yeah, the part two that's just tough. There's just so much, I want to say noise, but like competition is the best way I can phrase it. And that's where for me as a filmmaker that's still independent, like it feels very overwhelming. I'm like, okay, because I know independent directors particularly that have made more than one feature at this point and their careers aren't made, that's not what they do for a whole time. So yeah, that's where I kind of get, I'll call it a negative spiral at times of like, how can I still like rise to be like discoverable, not discovered, but just discoverable. I find that still a challenge in today's world, especially with algorithms. I feel like algorithms really, I mean, just even looking at my Instagram and social media, like everything's so carved to reinforce what we're already seeing, regardless of the platform and industry, in my experience. What do you think of that, of like how algorithms are affecting business?
It's one of those things that it's the genie's out of the bottle and we're not going to be able to put it back. But it is an echo chamber. Like it gives you more of what it thinks you want. And that negative feedback can be really devastating for a lot of reasons, right? So I'm very politically agnostic, but I see polarization happening within the country to the extremes. For everything. It doesn't. I mean, people fight over camera brands, which is so stupid. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, really? I know it's fun and everything, and you like to talk shit to your friends, whatever. But people get really offended and serious about it, and it's like, this is just a thing, guys. This is just a tool. Like, you're gonna fight which hammer is better. I mean, come on. So I think algorithms will certainly give you more of that, and to a point where it becomes a little blanky that people have. It's like a protective thing. I am a Sony guy, and this is my identity now because I'm a Sony guy, and everybody else who shoots the Canon is a loser, and I don't want to talk to him. So you can take that and you can superimpose into pick whatever thing you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people get there, which I think is a problem, given how humans can be divisive sometimes and become like tribes, So I think that's a problem. From a business standpoint, it can be beneficial if, for example, your goal is to sell independent films, right? There is an audience that only watches that, and there's an audience that. So if you could carve a way to find them, then it's easier. And I think that's the ultimate goal of these algorithms, is to segment. And again, it happens in society, which is the problem. But if you can segment the market, right, it becomes a lot easier to market to individual segments of that market. So if I know that somebody's a Sony guy and that's what he's going to buy, and Sony is putting advertising for their, FX3, then they know how to spend that money, and the message is going to get to me, and it's always going to get to me until the point I put my credit card down and I finally buy the fucking camera. Like that's how that's designed to do. And I think again, business-wise, I know why it happens and it makes sense. Society-wise, though, I don't think that's the best recipe. And I think it leads us to a really dark path if you don't wake up to it. But
yeah, I to piggyback on that, I feel like unless we really pay attention and has to intentionally place value on the human elements of things.
Yeah.
I mean, not to sound post-apocalyptic, but it's like, we will be our own destruction. Like, but of like, if you just look 10 or 100 steps ahead, like, I mean, and I'm speaking more on what's happening in society right now from my perspective, it's like, it's only a matter of time before the negative outcomes, to put it simply, are on everyone's doorstep.
Yeah. Well, I think in a lot of ways, you know, there are already political, I mean, not political, but societal outcomes. I'll give an example, right? I always said that the state of politics is a symptom, not the real disease, right? The real disease is deeper than that. That's just a symptomatic problem. And when you see the pendulum swinging either to the right or to the left so wildly within 4 years or every 8 years or whatever, to the point where people are going after each other. And again, you can argue, yeah, it's for good reason, no, it's for bad reason. But the fact that it is happening is the problem, right? It's the fact that it's happened is it's the damaging thing to any given country. That now we're prosecuting each other, now we're going after political opponents all the time. That event again, if that keeps going for the next 10 years, I don't know where it leads us. I really don't, because I mean, talk about A24, that movie, which I haven't watched yet, but the Civil War movie looks awesome. And I definitely want to watch it. There's a bunch of movies I haven't watched. It's a shame that I call myself a filmmaker and I haven't watched any movies, but
there's a lot on my list as well, and it's interesting. I think because the world is so stressful and I'm going through my own personal stresses, it's like I find comfort in watching things I've seen before. Like, I still might, I'm sure I would like, Civil War, like that's one that's on my list as well. But there's just something in like my nervous system can't take in new information as much as it used to.
You know what I watched the other day? And I watched the other day because I remember, this is so long ago, but a girl that I used to see like maybe 20 years ago, she said to me, "Oh yeah, remember that movie Amistad? I was a background person in that movie."
Okay.
I lived in Rhode Island. I lived in Northeast for a lot of my life, but before I went to California. So she told me she was in that movie, and I saw that movie on Amazon Prime or whatever it was. I was like, "Oh, let me watch that. Let me see if I can see her." I was like terrified after watching it. I don't know if you've seen it, but like after watching that movie, it is so I mean, the things that happen in the movie is so horrible that you're like, holy fucking shit. Like I need to go. I need to walk outside. I need to go touch grass because it's so awful. And there are movies like that are so. A movie I never watch is Schindler's List.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah.
Have you seen it? Yeah, like I'm afraid to watch it because I know it's gonna be horrific too. And it's like, yeah, there's some movies that you just either watch it once and you're like, okay, good, I remember it was awesome, but like I don't want to relive that again.
That is kind of how Schindler's List is for me. It's like, okay,
is it really?
I saw it. It was magnificent, and like the way the story was told, and like. Yeah, I felt like paying respectful homage for the subject matter, but yeah, it is just a heavier movie. I feel like that too with Handmaid's Tale, especially as a woman.
Oh, really? Like, I never watched that.
Ooh, like it's good, it's fascinating, all those things, but yeah, that'll be another series that's like one and done for me. Like, and it's funny, like I recently watched. Have you seen Penguin on Max?
Is that the Batman? Like
yeah. So and
no,
Batman,
I haven't seen. I've seen some of the things, but
yeah, it's more like the origin stories of Penguin. So I'm trying. Like Batman may or may not make appearance, but I don't think he does. But that one I would say is like a really solid like gangster journey movie. That I'm saying movie, but like those short series feel like a movie. And yeah, like that kind of stuff, and like same with Joker. Like, I don't know, anything that maybe that's what it is. It can't be steeped in reality too much that it like hits a little too close for home.
That
But like,
traumatizes you. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, if it's like, I don't know, because like I love Goodfellas. Like, I feel like that's kind of what Penguin was for me. I'm like, oh man, I haven't seen like a good gangster, solid gangster movie since Goodfellas. Not to say that I'm sure I'm like forgetting some that I'm like, yes, I do like that movie. But I feel like, yeah, it was really solid. And I loved the female actress in it and the character she played. Like, I
Yeah,
feel
what's her
like,
name? She's really good. She was in Mad Men, right?
was she in Mad Men?
Yeah, she
She
was. I
did
think so.
remind me of another
Elizabeth
actress.
something.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
If she's watching this, we think you're great. I'm just horrible with names.
We think you're so great that we forgot your name.
Yeah, because
Go ahead and
she's so
blacklist
great.
both of us. Yeah.
Right, right. But yeah, there's like a moment in there where she has this speech about like women not being believed, and it was so good. And like just that alone, like it's making like a top list for me. Just who her character was in that story, and yeah, how all the elements played around it. Anyways, I forget where we were going with it. Oh, watching like
Now,
hard to watch
yeah,
movies. Yeah.
hard to watch movies. Because I think that's the thing too about movies, right? Like, I'm not a fan of the new Star Wars. Only there's a few. So I liked what's it called? Rogue Squadron? No, Rogue One. The
Rogue
one that
One,
I
and
liked that.
yeah.
That was the only. So in my canon here, Andre's universe, there are 4 Star Wars movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like the prequels. I know the prequels are not popular, but I thought like the second part of episode 2 going into episode 3, I really liked. Like episode 3, I thought it was. I mean, there's some parts that I think it's weird because I think CGI was pretty new at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
filming digital is new also
Mm-hmm.
at the time. So it's not aging well. Like the original
Mm-hmm.
movies aged really well. But I like it. I like those. But I thought Rogue One was solid. Especially like again, same thing. Not at the beginning so much, but like the 2/3 on. I like Rogue One. But
Yeah.
were you gonna say you like other Star Wars movies? Are we not gonna be friends anymore after this, Michelle?
Oh my gosh, I do like what is
Thread
it's
lightly.
I've lost Disney Plus for over a year now, so I'm not remembering the names of these shows. But Mandalorian, I did really like that.
I heard people. Yeah, I didn't see it, but I
Yeah.
heard people say good things about that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
thought that was really solid. And from an actor's perspective, an actor like having their whole face and body covered is like definitely a challenge, and you still like get a sense for what he's going through. I thought was really fascinating to watch.
Yeah. No, that because you basically have to act through the costume, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't rely on the things that you would rely on as if you're just looking at a person without a mask. So yeah, kudos to him
Mm-hmm.
for doing that. You know, uh, I think that people who are outside, even outside of the independent filmmaking space, right? They don't realize how there are certain difficulties that I think only we face in a
Mm-hmm.
way, because it is a like a career path that has no path really. Like you can't
Right.
really look at what Joe did 25 years ago because those opportunities don't exist anymore. Not the way they did back then.
Right.
Um, it's not something that you say, "Oh, I'm gonna get my degree. I'm gonna get my filmmaking degree, and then I'm gonna go get an internship making $25 an hour, and I'm gonna work there, and then I'm gonna go up the ladder." There is no such thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I find that one of the prices I've paid over time is that it really affects your relationships with other people, especially people who are not in it.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Let's get deep.
I literally was just in therapy talking about this earlier today.
You had therapy today?
Yeah.
Me too.
Oh, good.
Mine was at what time was mine? Mine was at 1 o'clock.
Oh my God, mine was too. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't say this with judgment, but just speaking from like my feelings of like, I feel like, especially where, I've been trying to, or have, really been shifting my career, and I shifted it because of that, like, lack of structure of like, I've been in this industry for 12 years and I don't feel any closer to directing. Because part of that was like I was working in the art department, so I'm like, okay, how do I essentially like rebrand myself to like these execs, someone that could like have some influence into, projects getting greenlit that I could, be a part of as a writer or director. But anyways, that's a whole thing. But yeah, as far as like family, friends, support, like I feel like that outside looking in is like, oh, we're the risk takers. Which, like, yes, and when you, I feel like it's specific to like artistry in general of like, when it's so a part of you, like, I can't silence that part of myself. Of like, and I had to like really kind of, I don't know, for lack of better terminology, have like a come to Jesus moment of like, okay, if directing never works out for me, I had to like come to peace with that as well. Do I think that's my future? No, like but like, and that's the thing of like, I want to keep playing my cards. And it's like, now I'm getting sassy of like, who's to say I have to stop playing my cards, Like, but I think that's where, and also like industry wise, like I know I'm not the only one that has experienced this, like getting out of film is crazy. Like we're so resourceful in film. We've had to become like experts on so many different subjects, make it work in crazy hours, crazy deadlines, crazy like budgets. But like for whatever reason, I have struggled to get that to translate to other positions, other industries. So yeah, it's strange. Like I'm feeling orphaned from the world in like a few ways of like, both like, I have this knowledge and may I say wisdom like on a, professional spectrum, but for whatever reason, and maybe it's a me thing and that's fine, like it's just not translating and hitting. Sometimes it does, like, certain interviews or business interactions I feel like I nail, but there just may not be an aligned opportunity at that time. And then from like a family, friends perspective, that for people that do live in a way that's more risk averse, I just personally would not feel like I have lived a full life if I did everything safe. And I mean that, like, I even from like a partner perspective, I'm like, I am willing to wait until I find what I'm seeking. It's like, yes, I could have settled by now, but I didn't. So like, I just feel like it goes down to like who you are and and at such like a visceral level of like, are you gonna stop for your vision, whether that's like creative or, romantic, like business, whatever it is like, if you see the potential that is achievable, for me anyway, it's like, I'm gonna keep going until I get it. And if I don't, like, I live the life.
Yeah, there is a thing, like I remember when I did that movie that I sent to you to take a look at. Mm-hmm. We had that on the theater for one night, right? And the first night that, they want to make sure the movie's going to play, because we have to send them like a DCP, which is like a special format for digital projectors for film. And they wanted to make sure they would run, because there's a whole thing, compatibility, whatever. So the first time they played the movie, you watch the movie by yourself. It's just you in the theater watching a
Okay.
movie. And I gotta be honest with you, the greatest, most sublime feeling in the world is seeing your name in the silver screen when the credits roll. I mean, there's nothing like it. And maybe that's a problem because there are things that should be, maybe there are things that should be more sacred than that, like a loved one or a child I mean, I don't
Mm-hmm.
have any children, so
Mm-hmm.
so maybe that would be that when that happens, or if that happens for me. But there is something to that. It's such an accomplishment, even though it was only for one night. We only played to an audience of one night. And even though it was a small, relatively audience, by the way, I thank everybody who showed up, which is great. But it was a small audience, relatively speaking. It was great.
Yeah.
And it made it all worth it, even though, I never made any money or anything. Even though, like today, in a lot of ways, I'm ashamed to show it to people because I know I can do a way better job today, you know? But yeah, there's something to that. I don't know. And, you can say, well, it's because these people didn't have enough attention as kids and now they need the attention, they need the validate. No, the therapist can figure all the stuff out. Um, but there is something to it, and for other people who don't have that goal, it's really hard for them to grasp. Because it
Yeah.
seems like, I don't know if you had the same experience, but like, it almost seems like for some people that what we're doing is so foreign to them.
Yeah.
So completely foreign. Like they don't get it.
Yeah, I had it's interesting that you use the word foreign. I'm also like really into spiritual practices, and I had a Reiki session last year, and part of the feedback and what he was noticing was like it seems like in life he's like you're speaking, but it's like you're speaking another language. And I was like, yes, I have definitely felt like that at times of just like it's just not translating for whatever reason. Um, and it's interesting when you said like the thing for you that it sounds like, and I'm just reflecting words back, so let me know if I missed anything. That you get a lot of satisfaction from is like seeing your name in the credits. And for me, like, yes, but also like my thing as a filmmaker that I most enjoy is seeing and hearing, even though I'm very anxious about it, seeing and hearing reactions. Because sometimes they may laugh when you don't want them to laugh.
I know.
But also, like, it's also kind of just magical to be like, even though that wasn't the intended reaction, like if it's, in that way, sometimes it is the intended reaction, and you're like, oh, and in that way, it's like, oh, wow, I was understood. This message is understood. It's resonating. It may cause changes in people, or at the very least, allow them to be seen. Like, I don't know, being seen is like a big thing for me of like, I feel like, yeah, in life, there's been times where I just feel like kind of orphaned, and any time that I can feel like a bit of inclusion or like have that for someone else that like gets misunderstood, it's like, no, there's other people on our, I don't know, I'm not trying to make it like a better or worse thing because I don't think it's that, but it's just like the way we think and the way we operate in life. Not everyone operates that way. So like when you get empathy and sympathy for who you are and how you turn up in life, that definitely makes it feel less lonely, and that I feel understood finally when spaces where I may not feel where I feel very misunderstood.
Yeah, and I think that's so funny that you saying that, because one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, well, and who am I to say what mistakes people are making, but if you indulge me for a second, but what I think is a mistake is that usually filmmakers will isolate themselves. And I saw this happen in LA. I don't see it happening here so much, but I see it happen, definitely see it happen in LA where, oh, I'm gonna be the lone wolf, I'm gonna be the sole artist, whatever. And I'm like, no. You gotta get other people who think like you a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
because you need other crazy people around you, right? Because like we're not normal, so we need other ones like us around, because then we're gonna be like, oh, let's do the thing. Oh, you got a thing to do? Let's go do it. And they get it. Like I made friends with the guy who was actually in this podcast, TT. He was in the podcast several times. And he's also a filmmaker. His style is completely different than mine, but him and I became good friends. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that we both have the disease, right? And my friend Peter said the same thing. He's like, we all have the same disease, so that's why we get along. Because, you can, because most people be like, oh, the job is not working out. Why don't you get another job? Why don't you go do something else? Like it's, I don't know.
Well, and for my story, I've been trying, but it's like I'm being rejected. So,
No, come on.
yeah, no.
Well, I think, but you were working at a higher level, I think, in a way,
Yeah.
Michelle, because you
Yeah.
got to these bigger sets and things like that, which is fantastic. I think with like sometimes the crew that we run with is like we're just gonna do the thing and that's it. However,
Mhm.
whatever we have is whatever we're gonna use. And I'm not saying one is better than the other at all, but I think at the level that you were at, like the competition was definitely. It's almost as if I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. No, I wonder how you feel about that. Like it seems like at the entry level, right?
Mhm.
People can be more supportive because everybody's trying to get to the thing. But once you get here, then it becomes like, okay, who can I knock down? So I'm here by myself. Like, did you experience that, where this more competitiveness versus then like people wanting to help each other?
I mean, I think it comes down to individuals. So when I got into the film industry in 2010, and when I was kind of, climbing the ladder, so to speak, joining the union and doing more union work versus like that entry level, like assistant type of work. That is when it started getting more competitive. But also there was less opportunities when I was first getting in, both in Atlanta and just the industry as a whole. When I first got in, so to talk about my origin story a bit, my quote unquote big break was working on a Lifetime TV series called Drop Dead Diva. And at the time, there's only really two other series that you could work on. It was The Walking Dead and Vampire Diaries. So opportunities were just less. So yeah, in that way, so when I was first becoming union, anyone that had at least a show worth of work above me, yeah, they got it before I did. So that was frustrating, but also like, does make sense from a business perspective. But I guess for me in my journey, like it hit at the same time when I became union, that's when all this work started pouring in. So then I would say my first year of being union, it was like harder, but then like second, third year, I mean, that's partly why I was able to like continue doing well and like, rise to the top like I did, because like I said, it does come down to experience. Sometimes I think it should come down to experience more often, like especially for these department heads and new time directors that like I've directed more than some of these directors that get hired, and I'm like, how does that happen? So it's interesting. And that's the thing that's difficult about this business. There's not always rhyme and reason. There's definitely nepotism at play.
Oh, I was gonna say
every show.
I mean, I made a comment one day, and I think I made a comment here too. And I said, it depends a lot who you're sleeping with. Also, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Because you see it happening all the time. Like the director's girlfriend or boyfriend get in, and just because.
Yeah. Or even if they're not sleeping together, if they're just drinking buddies or whatever type of buddies, like on the weekend.
Both
like,
buddies, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
not that
there's
anything wrong with that. Like I get there's an element of trust. But like for me, I'm the type of person that does like to keep things separate. Like one of my guy friends said this quote, and I'll never forget it. Of like, he's like, "I'll mix my honey and my money," and I was like, that part. I'm like, And yeah,
Yeah.
like even if it's not romantic, I'm just like, I want to know that and maybe this is like me having potential blinders on. I don't know. Like this is the way the world works. Is like nepotism can be a part of it. Of like, I want to know that I've gotten what I've earned, and like, and this is I think common with women too. It's like when we have a shot presented to us, it's often because we fought like crazy for it to happen. And I guess like outside looking in, when I see, it's not even necessary, I wouldn't call it jealousy, but like more of a frustration with the system, and yeah, like the lack of structure in the film industry is infuriating to me. Not only from like how do you become to above the line, especially from a crew perspective, from below the line to above the line, but how where was I going with this? Oh yeah, but also like work quality. Like now that I've been like dipping my toes in other industries, there's so much more protections and check-ins of like how people are being treated, and who you can report to, and what are the systems in place. Like we just have so little protections.
Oh, there's none almost.
Yeah,
There's none
yeah.
protection. Yeah.
And from that perspective, like the stories that I've wrapped up over the years, I mean, that's also which, I mean, I can't even like fully talk about it, to be honest. Like it shaped me to be stronger and more resilient, but I also wouldn't wish the experiences I went through on others. And I do hope that the industry will get better in that way, because we should have more ethical, moral protections for what we experience.
You know, I always wonder about that, is that what is the cause of such predatory behavior in this industry in particular? Because there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
My hypothesis, I think maybe the combination of two things. They are people, well, yeah, very much these two things. It's the perfect bad cocktail. Is people who are so in love with what they do that they almost have blinders on.
Yeah.
Combined with very predatory people who can and I hate to use the word capitalize, but like they can take advantage, I would say, of these people without almost any checks and bounds, right? Because it's almost like, you know, and I've seen it, and I was not in when I was in LA, I wasn't like not in the high circles or whatever, you know, but even at the bottom, you see shit that you're like, wait, what? That doesn't make sense. Why are you doing that? You know, or that wouldn't fly on any other kind of business.
No.
But it happens in this industry a lot. And I think that's what it is. I think people want to be in it so badly, right? Because it's almost like, you know, there's that old cliche that you didn't choose this, it chose you. To me, it feels that way in a way. And like I don't want this. I just have to do it. You know, so I don't know. I think that's what causes that. And it's unfortunate because there are good people in the industry.
Yeah.
Absolutely, there are good people. But there's a good amount of people there too that they're definitely not playing the right way, for sure. I mean, as is evidence, right, over many cases that came forth. So,
yeah, like when I hear, and that's something that's nice about my season of life right now, is like I'm more out of like the filmmaking kind of bubble vortex of like I'm seeing the way other industries function, and how like all these processes and procedures that are in place for like, even as a quote unquote simple thing of like people just like a boss and their subordinate aren't getting along, like there's procedures in place to handle the situation. And the fact that we just don't have that, and I think that's what's so hard, is like on an individual basis for the way the industry is right now. It's like you have to self-advocate so hard and it may not work out for you. There's a risk to it. And not everyone, so it's like, not only are we already living a risky life, but like,
yeah,
the environment we're in is like, so, I mean, it is chaotic, I feel. And you gotta like stomach and maneuver that chaos as best you can, and we don't come out unscathed by it. You learn a lot from it, but again, like, there's just, yeah, I've just seen so much that I always caution, and I was cautioned too, anyone getting in, of like, it's not for the faint of heart. And like, yes, you gotta be tough skinned, but you can't, it's one of those environments that you can't fully prepare for. I don't care how thick of skin you have, of everyone gets knocked around, and everyone gets tested and pushed to, I've seen most, if not all, people get pushed to their max. Like, I remember one girl on a show, she was like, oh, you really see how someone really is when they're like, you know, stressed and like all this pressure is on them. And I'm like, no, I mean, that's someone that's like breaking, like their moment of being broken. I don't find that's their true self. I think that's someone that is just like, yeah, pushed to their max. And that's not, I don't like seeing that for anyone.
I always had this thing that I notice how people treat people. I notice how people treat other people that they want nothing from.
Hmm.
And that for me is a really good indicator of character. You know, so and you see this with sometimes you go to a restaurant and somebody treats the wait staff poorly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it could be just a disdain in how they say something, or not acknowledge that, hey, you're here, you know. That's a pretty big indicator for me. And I saw a lot of that when I was working, you know, as a PA or as a background guy. You know, there were shows that they treated everybody really well. And usually those shows, like, it seems to come from the top, you know? And there were shows that you're just a piece of furniture, pretty much.
Yeah.
And there was no need for that, honestly,
No.
right? Like, there's no need for that. So, yeah, it's interesting for sure, you know?
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's this like almost servitude culture that has been cultivated so strongly. For anyone listening, Andre just rolled his eyes. It's true of like so and one element that I feel like kind of
Michelle made me roll my eyes, people.
Is Video Village, and I had worked in props for a time, so like setting up all those chairs, which are usually very heavy, the wooden ones. Now we've since moved to metal and they're lighter. Anyways, that's a whole thing. But I think it's Christopher Nolan that doesn't have that. It's like, if you want a chair, you carry it yourself, and like you're the keeper of your own chair. And I'm like, yes, just little changes like that. Like, why am I getting someone else? Why am I getting like a good 20 plus people's meals, and then I have maybe 5 minutes to eat before I gotta go to set again? Like, it just, yeah, I don't. And that's like the hustle and bustle of it all. Like, I don't know if you saw, there's this article that like, if someone took the time to calculate like, okay, how much did it cost in overtime versus if they actually added production days with the bottom line cost, and it was less expensive to extend production than to keep going into overtime and just pushing people to these ridiculous degrees. And I get,
well, that's what people don't understand, right?
Yeah.
Like, they don't understand, if you're not in it. For anybody not in the movie industry, like, it's not uncommon to work 16-hour days.
Yeah.
Most people are like, what? What are you talking about? In a week? No, like in a day.
Yeah, and we don't get paid like doctors, you know, anyone else that works those type of hours. Because too, I mean, even like, yeah, from a benefits perspective, like hearing people get paid time off, holiday, like all these different types of leaves, or even like when we end a show, like we don't get severance, and because I get like that's the nature of freelance, but it's like yeah, everyone has to. There is an element of everyone kind of protecting their own, which leads to divisiveness, which is unfortunate. Um, but yeah, I would like to see like a few things change in the film industry. When like less of this hustle and bustle, like let's actually have attainable, achievable hours that isn't pushing people to their max, because it's that human element as well. It's like we have to factor in human elements and who we are and what we're capable of. And not have shame over like we can't continue living in this way. Like it's just it's not healthy. And then yeah, having a bit more systems in place with what is the qualifications of a department head or certain individuals above the line that have this like incredible amount of influence, and they just can't steer that ship. That already we're in chaos, and then when the train is off the rails and we're just trying to like keep it from crashing into like things, like that is so stressful. And yeah, I think that's what's frustrating of like being lower on the ladder, so to speak, is like it's like what are we like where's our sense of influence and power? It just feels beyond our reach. And so there's this saying that like what is it? Your crisis does not my. Do you know what the quote is that I'm trying to think of?
I'm not familiar.
It's something.
Does it start with Mike?
Yeah, it's like your crisis is not something for me to immediately solve. Something to that effect of like, and that's why I got burnt out too from other people / factors, like just dropping the ball and like creating this really intense situation with deadlines and like yeah, they just throw money at problems. I feel like tends to be the solution, versus like someone that's like, no, I'm choosing to go to like my friend's dinner that I already agreed to go to. Like, what? Your crisis is not for me to resolve. And so I feel like that's what got tiring. It's like, why am I constantly put in these situations to choose in that way? And then if you choose like a more respectful to yourself boundary, like healthy boundary situation, you're often ostracized. And like that's getting
they'll
better.
Get rid of you.
Yeah. It's like, you can stay in this or you can go. And it's like, those are my options.
Yeah, I would say one thing though, people, and that's the other thing people don't understand is like the people that work in film are probably some of the most resilient, hardworking people in the world.
Yeah.
Like that, like athletic level of resilience when it comes to what you're describing, 16-hour days, and I don't think it's because I know it's not the same, but there are some similarities. I think there's some similarities with military service or military structure. Let me rephrase that. There's similarities with military structure and the movie industry because there are very well-defined roles. You know, the director does this, and this person's in charge, and then the second person's in charge. So you have a commander, you have a general, you have a whatever. You know, I find that to be good. The problem is that if you have the guy who's on top who's an asshole and is gonna abuse the hell out of that power, you know?
Yeah.
And just for the sake of equality, that could be a woman as well, who abuses the power up top. So I've seen plenty of that too. So because having that, think about it, right? Like you get somebody who is like a little bit off, like wants power or never had it before, maybe has a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and now they have this power. Now nobody can say anything to them. That's a really bad recipe for disaster. And I think that's how a lot of these things happen, you know, that are not necessarily good for anybody. So,
Yeah.
you know, like you, I have been kind of out of it in the sense that, you know, I like to produce my own things. I like to do this YouTube channel, like this podcast now. So in a way that kind of satisfies that, that feeling that I need. Do you think that you see a similar path for you where you think you're going to be doing your own stuff, especially that, things are getting cheaper, or, if your second career is lucrative, you can finance your own stuff. Do you see that happening, or what are
Yeah,
your
I mean
thoughts about that?
that's the long term vision for sure. Of like short term, like I'm just taking a break from everything because I just need to focus on certain priorities right now. But yeah, in my ideal world for the groundwork that I'm laying down is I would be able to self fund more, um, and also like when you say affordable, it's so funny. Like for me, like up to this point, I've only made short films, and a affordable short film is still like in the low thousands. Like when we like zoom out of that,
Right.
and for other people to think of like what would they invest low thousands in, I mean, I guess
Right.
that they would have no money back. That would be vacation. But it's like sometimes I'm like, no, I need a vacation over like this project that I'm gonna be with for like months on end. And I don't know about you, but like as much as like I'm proud of my work, I always need like some space after it. I feel like once it's done, like we're across the finish line, I don't. I'm like so I marketing is like not what I want to do at that point. Like I need a break from it.
So I don't know if I told you that, but like, we did this thing over the summer, and it was there were days. So first of all, I my problem is I'm too much of an optimist, or you can say maybe I should have known better. But I thought I was gonna get this thing done in a month of filming, and I think we're 17 days in, and we got maybe like the first, I don't know, 14 pages, and it was like, there's no way I'm gonna finish this. So ended up having to cut it short and use it as an intro. But there were days that all I had was coffee. I was operating. I was a camera operator in these days, and some days I was acting. But the thing was so physical because it's basically action, and I never have done like an action thing before where we're running away from aliens and shit. And yeah, and so you can imagine.
That's fun.
Um, yeah, no, it's amazing fun. But like I'm running on coffee. It's 100 degrees outside because it was summer here in Georgia, and I'm wearing like costume with it's kind of thick. Um, when shooting was over, I don't think I've even told people this, but when shooting was over, I had the most intense um, spasms in my leg.
Mm.
I was literally screaming for a good half an
Oh
hour. I thought the
no.
neighbors were gonna come down because like the muscles were just spasming and I couldn't stop doing that. Um, for a good hour. For a good hour. Um, and that's the thing that again I don't think folks understand is like to the limit that we put our bodies in the line to do some of these things, because when you're doing it, the high of doing the thing is so intense. Like for me, like I'll start filming in the morning, and oh, dude, we gotta go. It's 10 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
We have to stop now. I'm like, what are you talking about? We just started. I don't even notice the time. But I'm that guy that like I'm not gonna eat. I'm not gonna drink. I'm not gonna do anything. And then 2 days later, I need IV because I forgot that I'm supposed to eat.
I
Um,
I have to say I've
you
gotten
know,
better about that because yeah, I think with anything that you just enjoy so much, it's easy to grind. But yeah, also like the older we get, like the more yeah, I can't
you
bounce
can't
back
do
as
that
much.
anymore.
So
Yeah,
I'm like, no, I'm
I
making sure
know.
I have my water. I'm like taking a little 15-minute walk. Like yeah, we
Yeah.
need those. I equate humans to plants of like we're all living things and we need sunlight, we need water, we need food, we need rest, all that. So um but
Yeah.
yeah, not to cut it short, but I do need to head out and wrap up. But yeah, let me know if there's anything else you want to talk about as we wrap out.
You mentioned age.
Mm.
So let's talk about all the rude things.
Okay.
Um, well, one of the things that I saw on your channel that I thought was very intimate, or should I say vulnerable,
Mm.
Was when you made the video about turning 33
I
at the
forget. It
time.
was something in my
It was your
30s.
birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was your birthday, and I can cry if I want to.
Yeah.
No, but that was the thing. I was like, wow, no, she definitely has some I would say life experience for sure. But I wonder if you can talk about that a little bit, because I noticed that like after that you took a little break from the channel.
Yeah.
How do you feel after being that vulnerable on camera?
So it's interesting. At the time, I had kind of like YouTube mentors kind of encouraging me to post something like that, like because yeah, I have all these stories, but where I don't even view it like, yes, it's vulnerable, but it's also like so personal that even like you can see at times like I decided not to like edit between moments just so you could see I was deciding, should I share this, should I not, and often I didn't quite go as far as I could have because yeah, like here's my thing. I like to keep my personal life personal. And I don't care. I don't know. I've never been faced with like, okay, you can share this dark thing or like, yeah,
Right.
some kind of financial or whatever life reward that would be like very attractive. I never been presented with that, but I'll say too, to my writing, I always try to create distance. Even though I'm very inspired off of my life, I always try to create distance to like, yeah, protect that part of myself of like, because like what I was kind of referencing earlier in like screenings of like people may laugh when you're not intending for it to be a funny moment. It's like I don't want that to feel like a criticism of me, so I always make enough changes to where I'm like, no, this is still its own story, and also a storytelling, like you up the stakes, like to, make it more engaging, I guess. So yeah, and as far as from my YouTube, like it just became not sustainable too from a production perspective to make like video production, even on just like filming yourself scale. It takes a lot of work.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, and so yeah, for me, like that was my COVID project of like I shared the knowledge I had. Was there more like educational knowledge I could have put out there? Sure, but I think I would have attached a price tag to it. And two, like all this stuff takes time to learn, like how to host like a course and like get things automated and like customer service wise if someone like is engaging with you in that way. And I'm like, that for me, I just didn't. Like pitched it, a few more steps down the timeline. I'm like, I don't think I want to take all that on. So I got it to the point where, I'm happy where it's gotten. As I make more short form content or ideally long form content in the future, I'll add to it in that way. But I don't personally see me making more personal content like that. Simply because, yeah, I really like having my personal life be personal and private. But I did, since I was like, yeah, it was kind of an experiment of like, let me see how this feels. And like, I didn't take it down. Like, I really think it resonated with a lot of people. And I feel like it will continue to do so. And just, yeah, like shining on light on those things that are A, hard to talk about, and B, get like, I don't want to say intentionally covered up, but just isn't like known to people outside of the film industry. I feel like it did shine a light on what really goes on a little bit. But could I make more content like that? No, it's just it's too much.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that you should go cry on YouTube all the time. But it did show, I think, your personality more so than other things. Because I mean, I don't know. There's, yeah, that is the truth with every, I think, artistic endeavor, right? Like we are sharing a part of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you write, and we didn't even get to touch on your writing style, which I saw that video. By the way, as I was setting up lights today, I was watching your YouTube channel the entire time. So if you see a spike today, because I wanted to keep you prepared. If you see a spike on your reviews, it's me. Today because I was watching the you talk about your writing style, and it's very difficult to do something like that without putting elements of yourself, whether they're imaginary or they could be hyper realistic, if we can use that word, but it's always biographical in a way. Even if you showcasing like, okay, this is the kind of person I will never be, it's still biographical because it's the opposite reflection, right? It's the dark reflection of you. So for anybody who never wrote anything or like that, it may be difficult for them to get it. But like, I don't know anybody who doesn't put an element of that. I think that's why we take it so personally sometimes. If we don't train that out of our conscious, like if somebody gives you notes, you may take it personally, and you shouldn't, right?
Right.
But you do, especially if you're a beginner, you really take it. I saw a lot of actors having issues with that.
Yeah, a muscle that takes a while to build, because I find that too with a lot of kind of newer folks. It's like this wrestle of, I don't even know if it's control, but I think it comes down to ego of like, but you have to, in my opinion, release a bit of ego to be collaborative. And yeah, it just creates friction that can be hard to be productive with your day.
Yeah. Well, in the spirit of collaboration, I will let you go because I know you're busy and you have things to do. But I truly appreciate you doing this. It's fun talking to you. And I'll tell you one story really quick because I think you're gonna think this is funny.
Okay.
You remember when we met and then we talked later and I didn't remember you, right?
Oh.
And I felt like such a fucking asshole. No, but yeah, exactly, such a fucking asshole, right? So the other day I was in Marietta Square and I saw one of the friends that I made at the dance thing that we used to go to, and I was talking to her and I'm like, "Oh, did you know what happened to so and so?" Like one of our mutual acquaintances had something bad happen to him, and she's like, "Yeah, I was there. I talked to you." And I'm like,
Oh.
you talked to me? She's like, "Yeah, I talked to you for 25 minutes. I honestly have spotty memory from that day. And I was like, I don't remember talking to this person. This is somebody I talked to multiple times. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I honestly don't have the memories from it. And I think maybe because my head was spinning during that whole event so much that I just blocked out some things and some people. And I don't know. And to this day, like I feel weird about it. Because like, what else am I forgetting?
No, yeah,
I
mean, that was an emotionally charged situation. And yeah, like I'm with you of like, even without emotionally charged situations, my memory can be really bad. it's super selective. So yeah, I don't take it personally.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You shouldn't, because it's my old age. You can blame my old age. I'm an old man. I forget things.
But no, this was really great, and yeah, I look forward
it was great.
Hearing the rest of the episodes coming out.
Yeah, they should start coming out soon. This is episode either 8 or 9 at this point. So, yeah. Well, thanks. Oh, before you go, where can folks find you if they want to find you for any reason whatsoever?
Yeah, so Instagram is a good spot to kind of reference everything. My handle is Michelle Caruso. It's MICHELLEY CARUSO. And then from my link tree, there's my film website. And as my next venture that I'm going down is I just finished my tech boot camp for UI UX web design. So I got that portfolio up as well. And then as we've been discussing, my YouTube channel, that's also in that link tree as well.
Nice. Go hire Michelle, everybody, and have a good night.
Yes.
Bye.
Good night.
Find this perfect girl, and they've even seen her out there, and they want that girl that didn't respond to them online to respond to them, through me, and they're never happy because everything's got to be perfect. And I think that people will, used to give people more grace than that, and that's really what changed, is that people feel like there is this great love of their life that they're just missing, and they can see what she looks like and see how she acts, and they feel like they will know right away. And I think that that's what's made it so hard. You've got to open up your mind to, it might not look like what you envisioned. It might be an average body type.